Alright, so we're going to be going over some of the controversy in WoW, and obviously there's been a lot of controversy. We're not going to be covering the lawsuit or anything like that. But we will be covering content, which is a whole rabbit hole. And I don't want to needlessly flame the devs, because I think they get enough of that and it's not constructive. And I don't think I don't like this idea that the devs are just after your money and they don't make any content, because the point I want to illustrate here is that the content is there, and we'll go over which content specifically I'm talking about. The content's there, it's just distributed terribly and not thought out at all. On that note, let's start out. There's a lot of topics, because my god, the game is an absolute mess right now. It is an absolute mess, and Final Fantasy is destroying it, and let's get into it. So, first thing I want to talk about is timegating. I am staggered that it took people this long to realize how much of a problem timegating is. So, timegating is needed. Timegating is there because you don't want someone to be able to just do pretty much all of the content in the expansion or in the patch in a day. You need to lock them out, because otherwise that's just ridiculous. It rewards people who sweat the game too much. I get why it's there. What I don't get is why we're timegating basically everything in the entire game. And we're going to go over some of the examples of things that just... There's no reason to timegate them at all. The only things you should be timegating is top-level content. Nothing else should be timegated, because there's no reason to. Top-level content's timegated because it's abusable if it's not. So, let's start off with, let's see, Covenant questlines. This is something that annoys me. Now, it makes sense that they're time-gated, because every questline you complete, you get renown, and obviously, if someone can get renown cap 80 in a week, it's a problem. You get renown from two ways, excluding the catch-up system. You do the weekly quest, and you do the weekly part of the quest that's released. Why are we doing a weekly quest? Why are we even releasing it in parts? The whole point of a long questline is it's nice to go at your own pace. It's nice to, I want to do this for X amount of time, and then I'll let it go for a week, and I'll pick it up in a few days. That's the whole point. But when you lock people out, it's no longer fun anymore, because you give them a part and they get into it, and you just break the cycle. And then you're like, okay, come back next week. Tough shit if you want to carry on. No one cares. Instead, I think what should be done: remove the weekly quest that you get. I think you have to get 1,000 anima and it gives you 1 renown. Remove that, and instead just distribute the renown over segments of the quest line and just release the whole thing, because I'm pretty sure it's already there. Or at least a lot of it's there. I highly doubt they're still making it. It's there. Just stop timegating it. There's no reason. What else? Old raids. I was made aware of a system in Final Fantasy where, as long as you're not doing the latest piece of content, you can loot whatever you want, which makes sense. Now, someone please explain to me why Castle Nethera is loot locked. There is no reason. It doesn't matter. It's no longer the strongest raid. There is, across the board, you can find better pieces of loot across the board in Mythic Plus or Sanctum of Domination. So why are we timegating Castle Nethera? If people want to do it, let them do it. If they want a specific item, just let them do it. It's not abusable. It's not latest content. There's no reason for it. It's stupid. Also, what is the point in this? From what I understand, it's because locking people out of LFR. From what I understand, it's because LFR can be very toxic when people don't know what they're doing. This doesn't accomplish anything. All this does is, when the raid comes out, it shifts the people that would have gone to LFR to the pre-made group finder. That's all this does. Just release the whole thing in LFR. Because casuals are now thinking, oh, okay, well, I can't be bothered with this. I'm just going to log off. This is stupid. On the topic of timegating. My god, PvP. Where do we even start? It's a mess. I am an actual big fan of PvP, but there's no point in doing it anymore. It's just been slowly kneecapped ever since Mr. Pandaria. It's gone downhill. The gear sucks. You only get the actual item level out of the gear in PvP, which is a really stupid system. More importantly, it's time-gated. All of it, in several ways. It's unique in that sense. So what do we get for a random epic battleground? We queue for half an hour. It takes us half an hour, and if we win, so 50-50, if we win, because you can't really carry an epic battleground, there's 40 people in it, you get some anima and 65 conquests. A conquest ring is like 550 or something, or 650, 65 conquests. And it gets better, because then you get locked out for a day, in a sense. The next time you do a random epic battleground, which takes an hour of your time, you're going to get 15 conquests. 15? For an hour of your time, and random battlegrounds are no better. You get something like 9 after your first win. Arena skirmishes, you get 15 for 1 win. You just get no conquest. Like, I don't even know why there's a cap in the first place, because it takes so goddamn long to get the conquest that there's no point in the cap. And the gear isn't even as good as raiding gear. So again, why are we capping it? There's no need. PvP's a mess. Frankly, I don't even know what to do with it. Blizzard just hate it for whatever reason. Dungeons. This is more on a topic I'll cover a bit later. Is clutter. Why is stuff like this time gated? I mean, it's a very minor thing to point out, but it's important because there is a reason this is time gated, and it's because it's at this point it's in Blizzard's, it's instinctive. It's their instinct to just release content and just immediately time gate it without actually thinking, do we need to time gate it? It's obvious at this point. And I think it's just because all the older devs have left and the newer ones are just kind of following the trend. There's no reason for this to be time gated. It's just this just points out exactly what they're doing. They release content, they time gate it. Why? I mean, is 35 anima problematic? If people find, you think people are going to sit there grinding random dungeons at max rank to get 35 anima? They can just go do a world quest and get twice the anima in half the time. No reason at all. It's ridiculous. Lastly, in time gating, world bosses. This was immediately obvious to me as soon as I started, even before I played Shadowlands. As soon as I started reading about it, there are 5 because the moral sells on. There's 4 world bosses in each of the, I suppose, continent zones for each covenant. Why are we time gating them? Only one of them spawns a week. Why? What's the point in that? The gear isn't as good as top level raiding gear, so there's no point there. I've never even got a piece of gear dropped for this. I usually just get some crappy conduit that I already have. I have duplicate conduits. I don't even bother doing the bosses anymore because it's once a week. It wastes. Honestly, it takes longer to travel there than to do the boss, and I get like some anima and 100 gold or something. It's pointless. There's no reason for these to be spawning on alternate days because they're not even that good. That's the last we'll do on time gating, but essentially the point is you only time gate content if there's a reason for it. There's no reason to time gate world bosses. Not when the gear they drop is just not up to scratch with everything else. Not that it should be, but if it isn't, then why are we time gating it? The answer is we shouldn't be. There's no reason. Which leads us to new content. And the word I want to drive home is depth. This has no depth. None of the new content has any depth. And it's sad because a lot of the new content conceptually is great and it is actually received very well. Pre-Shadowlands in the beta, there was a lot of cool things that were released that everyone was like, okay, this is cool content. The problem is Blizzard take that and they run with it. And they don't ever, certainly not for the last 2 expansions, 3, even 4, they never think about what is this going to do in the long run. Or how can we build on this? You know, how can we sustain this? Good content isn't something that's just good for a week. It's something that's consistently good, at least throughout the expansion, at the very least. And there's a million examples of this. Torghast is one, but first of all, we'll go through Covenants quickly. I have a million problems with Covenants. The Forge of Bonds, I think it's called. I, today, changed my Covenants once. I changed my Covenants once, and now, or rather my Conduits once, and now I'm locked. Why am I locked? Where is the depth here? Look at how many different options I have, but I don't have the different options because I get 1 energy every 24 hours, so I actually don't have any of these options. I changed them twice, actually, so I could test something. This is what I mean by depth. The content's here. Look at all these things. There's so many of them, but Blizzard needlessly add this, and now there is no depth because I have no options because I'm time gated. What else? The actual system of Covenants, I like it. It's a cool idea. You know, you get your little faction and your little area and allegiance, whatever, something like that. The problem is there's no depth. There is essentially only one reason to pick a Covenant. How does it synergize with your class? And that's it. And that seems rather obvious to point out, but let's look at how much content there actually is. It's all this stuff, the Queen's Conservatory, which is fucking useless. These chests, I mean, sure, if you pick a certain Covenant, you can loot a chest that the other Covenants can't. Wow, does it have anything good? No, not really. It has some anima, I guess. So this is what I mean by depth. I mean, Covenants are such a cool idea, but the only thing they're actually utilized for is just the abilities of the Covenant and a few other minor things. There's no depth. There's no reward. The renowned rewards suck. Half of them are just like a different soul shape, which I honestly forget I even have. And even that's a buggy system. And the rewards are just unlocking content that is already there. It's not a new reward. It's just like, oh, now you get this new row of something you weren't even going to use, which is weird. The rewards suck. What is this system even called? The mission system. This sucks. It takes obscenely long to get your followers to any level. The progression is unbelievably slow, and the rewards are not impressive. At least not initially. The best rewards you can get is like Soul Cinders and Soul Ash, but just go do Torghast. It's just not rewarding. It doesn't feel rewarding at all. I don't see a mission pop up. I'm like, wow, I got a mission. I'm like, okay, maybe. Oh, thank God, I got an XP mission. Now it only takes me 3 months to level up instead of 2 months. Yay. The callings. The only thing these things are useful for is catching up with renown. The rewards. Tribute of the Ascended. You hear that, you think valuable items from the forges. You know what those valuable items are? Some greys that will sell for about 1,000 gold. A little bit of anima, and for some goddamn reason, 20 of these things. I can't use these, Blizzard. I can't use any of them because they're not distributed evenly. This is all anima caster spots. I can't use them because you don't give me the wild seed of regrowth thing. So what am I supposed to do with these? I have 15 of them, for Christ's sake. I mean, what's the point? That's Covenants. And on that topic, we'll quickly talk about cluttering the game, because this is such a problem that nobody's talking about. The game is just so goddamn cluttered. Think about where you spend your time in Shadowlands. Think about, in Shadowlands, what you're doing. And look at this. Look how many useless things there are on the map right now. And I can't blame Blizzard for this, because now it's too late. But essentially the problem is, when Blizzard releases new content, they completely forget that they already have old content that's either similar or can be exchanged or used. Ouroboros is such a fantastic example of this. You know what? Let's go to Ouroboros to demonstrate what I mean. It's just that they don't know that you can reuse old content. It's fine. They experimented with this in, I think it was Legion. Let's go to Ouroboros. This city is goddamn depressing. My god, it's depressing. It's just completely empty. And I can't blame Blizzard because there's nothing to fill it with, because their content already exists. Why do we need this city? I mean, look how goddamn big it is. There's nothing here. There's NPCs. Almost every single one of them is useless. The only reason you need this city is to go to the mall, because it's the only way into the mall. I mean, why do we waste our time making this content? It's useless. These NPCs already exist. There's these item upgrade NPCs. They're all around the goddamn map, but we need an entire hall. For what reason? I could just go to any of the other... I can go to my Covenant. Why can we not have an entrance to the mall in the Covenant? Why does the city need to exist? It's empty, it's depressing to look at, and it's, more importantly, a complete waste of time of the devs, which means it's a waste of our money, because we're the ones paying for the devs. So this is just a giant waste of all our money for people to just sit there on their mount when they could be doing it in Orgrimmar. Or any other of the pointless cities. Borealis is another one. That's pointless. Stupid. Really stupid. Old content is, you know what, I don't even know, here's another thing cluttering the game. It's, what do we even do with it at this point? If we go to, where is it, Pandaria, there's probably an assault in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, which is now, it's just awkward. Have you ever flown through this and there's just an assault going on and you're just going to the Shower of Anger and you get zapped by this stupid ass mob? Why is it even here? It's just depressing to look at. And this is again on the content, the depths. The same thing is in Legion and Warlords of Draenor. There's just events happening around the map and nobody's going to them because Blizzard didn't think of what happens after the expansion. It's dumb. It's just clutter. It's so much goddamn clutter. Last thing on clutter. My god. This is just the currencies I know of. I'm probably missing a few currencies. I don't even know what the hell this thing does. What does this do? God knows. Trading goods. I don't even know what this thing does. But I know it's pretty fucking pointless. The anima, I guess the anima is a good currency. This research, this takes ages to get and it's boring, and all it does is just, it might as well just be honor points, because all it does is just upgrade a pretty crappy piece of gear. It's just honor points, essentially. Soul Cinders, there is no reason for this currency to exist at all, because it says it empowers the legendaries. That's what Soul Ash does. So why do we need Soul Cinders? Because now I have a lot of Soul Ash, but no Soul Cinders. So I'm getting Soul Ash, but it's a legendary item, but it's worthless to me. So what's the point in this? This Stygian Ember? What? These things are useless. Like, oh wow, it's 0.8% healing. Why every time I do a raid I get some of this useless Stygian Ember stuff? I have 67 of them, dude. I don't care about these. This is useless unless you give me something worth upgrading, which I don't have. So, God knows. Valor is just awkward. I don't even know what to say about Valor. It's just weird. The sources of where you get it is weird. It used to be you get it from doing raids and stuff. Now you just get it from the callings and you get like 35. It's stupid. We won't spend too much more time on that. Instead, let's look at the Maw. And we're getting to Torghast, guys. Don't even worry about that. The Maw. I have so many goddamn problems with the Maw. Number one, this is such a picky thing, but why were we forcing people for half of the goddamn expansion to walk around in the Maw? The place is so big, it's depressing, it's fucking boring, frankly. Why are we making everyone walk around? thematically, it got extremely tiresome very quickly, and it gets even more tiresome when you realize that you're essentially forced to be here. Basically, all the content, the new raid is in the Maw. Quorthia, which is a new piece of content, yeah, that's in the Maw too. If you want to do Wrath of Jedi, everything's in the Maw. This place is boring. I hate traversing it. All the mobs feel exactly the same, boring, uninteresting. Even the world boss is boring. The rares aren't actually rare at all. I hate this whole place, to be honest. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of seeing the word Stygia. I'm sick of seeing the word Soul. And I'm sick of seeing the word Morsworn or More X. I'm sick of these stupid wolf things as well. What? God, this is just the Maw, guys. The dailies, Quorthia, the dailies are unbelievably boring. They are almost exactly the same, I don't know, 10 quests on rotation. Sometimes you get the same 3 or 4 in a row. Some of them take absurdly long, and almost every other one just takes 5 minutes, and you get essentially nothing from it, because you're going to be locked for a long-ass time, because it takes so goddamn long to get the reputation. I've been doing the dailies a while. Where's my reputation? I've only just got tier 4, which offers me more or less nothing, because all I care about is tier 6, which is when I can upgrade my gear, but I can't. So all of the dailies are really useless. And it's... I think even Blizzard know this, because if you've been to Quorthia and you give a shit about mounts, you would have noticed that, look at the amount of things here that drop mounts. I mean, some of them are dependent on the Covenant you have, but loads of them drop mounts, and there's a reason for that. It's because Blizzard are just throwing a Hail Mary. They're like, okay, this place is extremely boring, maybe we can get people to farm mounts, I don't know. It's awkward, it's weird, it seems like a bad attempt at a kind of time lost style kind of thing, but it's not the same, because even just the region is boring. No more about the ball, please, God. Assaults. This is another thing, thematically, that I hate. What have we got now? Necrolord Assault. The War Chest of the Undying Army, again, useless. You get 50 Soul Cinders, and everything else is kind of just basically useless. And do you notice anything different in the Maw during Assaults? I don't. Everything stays exactly the same, so thematically, pointless. I'm pretty sure you don't get any kind of bonus if it's your Assault. If it's the Nightfear Assault and I'm Nightfear Covenant, I'm pretty sure I don't get any other bonus, so... what the hell is the point in that? They're boring, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. They're boring and they have no depth at all. Which leads us to Torghast, which is where we are now. I have two problems with Torghast. I have problems with Torghast and I have problems with the Legendary system. We'll cover Torghast first. So, again, conceptually, Torghast is really cool. It's a cool mode. You can go through, you can get different perks and go cool little builds. It was really cool. The idea of it, and from what I hear, it was really successful in the beta. The problem is, again, it has no depth at all. There's no depth to it. The maps all feel exactly the same. They have this boring grey and blue feel. They all have the same assets. This cage with the skull on it. We haven't seen this a million times. And just souls scattered everywhere. It's better now because they removed some of the stuff like the Seekers coming after you and deaths counting against you, and they removed the floor, which is cool. But it doesn't change the fact that thematically it just feels like a grind. Which is most of the game, but not even a fun one, because it just feels like you're repeating the same thing over and over again, even though the whole point is supposed to be different. A lot of the powers are just essentially useless, and I often try going a cool build, but to make it work you need luck, because you need to stack the same powers, and you just don't get that many options. So the powers need redoing so that they're actually fun, and it doesn't just feel exactly the goddamn same every single time. Also, what I have a problem with is the rewards. The only reason to do Torghast is for the Soul Ash and the Soul Cinders to upgrade your Legendary. There is no other reward, and it just feels garbage getting all the way to the end and getting the Soul Ash and Soul Cinders that you already knew you were going to get. And then you have to do the other wing, and even then you probably don't have enough to upgrade. You have to wait till next week. So essentially, you basically don't get anything from it. You have to do it multiple times. They try to compensate for this by just these weird cosmetics that get dropped, but for some reason every single time I get a drop, it's a shoulder piece, just recolored. Hate to break it to you, Blizzard, but that doesn't make my hour grind into a Borghast rather worth it. It just doesn't. It needs to drop something else. There needs to be something else to it, something more rewarding, or just at least make it fun. More powers, something like that. God, Torghast is an absolute mess. And it's very long. We'll just say that as well. It just still takes too long, I find. At least for what you get, it takes too long. If it gave something better, maybe I wouldn't mind it takes long. The Legendary system. This is another example of a system Blizzard announced that seems really good in concept, but they kind of butchered it completely. So, essentially, you get your Legendary, and then you get the Soul Cinders, and you can upgrade it, right? Hoo-ha, the whole works. Great. The problem is, I don't know about you guys, but I got basically all of the legendary memories more or less instantly. I don't know why they're not showing up here, but I have basically all of these. And I got them extremely quickly, but like pretty much just within the first. They don't feel legendary, is my point. It doesn't even feel legendary because they're so easy to get, and it also doesn't feel legendary for the same reason the Heart of Azeroth didn't feel legendary, because everybody has it. It's not a legendary if everybody has it, is it? That's more of a nitpicking. My big problem is, A, they're just so easy to get the memories, to the point it doesn't feel legendary, and almost all of them are useless. You have an option between 2 or 3. The whole point was supposed to be, oh, you can pick, which slot it goes in, and etc. You don't pick what slot it goes in, because there is always just a mathematically correct. If you have an option to go for a head slot, you do that, or chest, you do that, because it's just worth it. There's no reason, other than which memories you can use, that you would go for a ring one, for example. And even then, the memories are extremely boring. What does this do? It basically just gives me 10% more damage. How boring is that? Like, pretty boring. And all the other ones are they're useless. Some of them are even detrimental. They just suck. It just sucks, and it honestly doesn't even feel good to upgrade them. It doesn't feel good to go to the auction house and spend 200k. How lazy is that? I mean, I'd rather do like some cool quest line, like the system in Legion where you had to get the new powers or whatever. I'd rather do that. Why do I have to go to the auction house and spend 160k? It doesn't feel very legendary. And these random missives or whatever, they should be different and just offer something a bit. What is it, like 3% haste or whatever? It's just weird. It's not very imaginative, and it's not what it was designed to be, which is customizable. We'll probably end up getting a system where we can get our own, multiple legendaries, which would be kind of cool. I would like to see multiple legendaries, but make it increasingly harder to get to multiple legendaries, like to the point it's extremely difficult. That would be great, and then the grind becomes fun. That's my problem with the legendaries. They're just expensive. They're a grind, and they're not what they were intended to be, which is creative. They're not creative at all. Which leads us to our last piece, which is content just scales really poorly. And this is something I want to go through. Is I like to call it instance creep. I don't know if people use the term. I like to call it instance creep. Let's get away from this guy actually, because he's kind of making a racket and it's getting rather loud. We were talking about content depth earlier and about how Blizzard doesn't really think content through, and this is very obvious in many ways. Garrisons, they were supposed to be, I think, a long-term thing, maybe. They're useless now. Who actually goes to the garrison anymore? I mean, if you want a mount, I guess, or a cosmetic, that's it. But ultimately, they're now useless. And the problem is, they're useless for no reason. Why couldn't we have more content for garrisons? Why did we... All the time Blizzard spent developing Ouroboros, why not just add that to garrisons? Well, they should have done after Warlords of Draenor. Because now they're just there and they're useless. All the assaults in Pandaria and Legion and Warlords, they're useless. And they're just awkward to go through, frankly. It's just pointless. And this leads me on to instance creeps, which is what I call it, which is there are now so many goddamn instances. I hope you know what I mean by instances, or phases, I think some people say. War mode. Why does war mode exist? No, the only time people use war mode isn't actually to PvP. They use war mode so that they can get different rare spawns. And then you have cross-server realms, which are just merge the servers. Don't tell me the technology's there. It is. Just merge the goddamn servers. Don't do this stupid cross-realm stuff. It's ridiculous. There's just so many instances that it's already depressing going through, I don't know, Warlords of Draenor and seeing, or the Warlords of Draenor content and just seeing every single rare up. That's already depressing enough. And then going through an assault and nobody's there. But then you do it when you're in war mode. And it's like, why is this a thing? And then there's the level system now, which is, you only really, while you're leveling, you're only going to see people if you're in a certain area. You're only going to see people who are within a few levels of you. So now it's even more dead. There's just so many phases. It's just separating everyone. This is supposed to be a game. It's an MMO. People are supposed to work together, but they're being separated by these phases. It's just weird. It's incredibly strange. Just stop all this instance bullshit. It's just a band-aid, and it's going to become more and more problematic the more instances you add, because you're not removing them, you're just adding them. And then lastly, I suppose, there's just so many throwaway places, and we kind of already covered this with Ouroboros, but even in the new expansion, there's so many throwaway places where Blizzard are just attaching content to, and that's the only purpose of them. And then as soon as that content becomes redundant, which is usually the next patch, it's just there. And that is why now we're in this situation where look at this. This is just worlds. Look at all these continents. How many more continents are going to fit needlessly? Why does any of these continents? Why did these need to be separate continents in the first place? I mean, they don't. Why do we need a new major city every single expansion? We don't. We don't need any of this. This is why I say there is content. It's just being distributed badly because we spend the content making pointless places like Orboros instead of just actually content that people are going to use and will last a while. It's pointless. So we'll close it out since we're going to do DBD later. The last thing I want to close out is with something to give the devs confidence, because God knows they need it. There are things that this game does right. I think the mechanics in general, even though I'm playing Affliction of Warlock and it sucks and it's been nerfed, the mechanics are fine. Please don't touch the mechanics. Classes are fine, talents are fine. I already like how this system works. I think most people are happy enough with it compared to the rest of the game. Don't touch this. You guys do a good job with that. That's fine. Raid mechanics. They become a little bit tiresome. I've seen a lot of the same raid mechanics over the last few raids, but different enough that, sure, you know what, keep it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just keep that system. And what else? I hate the reward system for PvP, but the battlegrounds are fine. Most of the battlegrounds are great. Keep them. I like how we can do old battlegrounds as part of epic battlegrounds now. Keep this stuff. This is what works. Keep that, but just they need to learn to build off of everything else and just stop ditching content. Like Torghast has just been ditched. It's just been left. There's so much room for growth, and it's been left for a year now, and not much has changed, to be honest. It's still garbage. So we'll leave it there. What are we on? We're on 26. That's not too bad. We got through a lot. We'll leave it there, and then we'll go play some DVD.